CNN. You don't need to do it. Dropping the N-word. How is your approach going to change moving forward?
I don't think there's much that needs to change.
I've seen the tweets. I've seen the videos.
I don't platform trolls.
But how are you processing this?
I'm going to tell you the truth. I thought there were things about the memorial that were distasteful. I did not like him when he was alive. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, listen, you going to the dark side of where you're going right now. Is that kind of where you're going or not at all?
I didn't even want to do the show at that time. I was looking for an off-ramp. At that point, they were trying to knock me out. It made me want to stay in the game.
I got it. Okay.
Let's go.
So the obvious question is, why would you put Nick Fuentes on your podcast? Why would you do that? My lawyers, don't do it. You know what's a great thing? I don't have sponsorship to lose. I don't have to worry about an investor saying they're not in. No.
You make the money.
For my entire career, I'll talk to anybody. And the reason why I wanted to speak to him is because this interview happened the day after me leaving Charlie Kirk's memorial, which was the most magical revival I've been in my entire life. Charlie was 31. He's in his mid to late 20s. And I feel what we need today more than anything else is to continue talking to each other. And if we don't learn about each other, what are we going to do? Hate, misinformed, agitate, divide, continue to call each other out, and create this temperature to go higher and higher and higher? No. Guess what? You know what podcast I did with this guy? I don't know if there's a podcast that you'll learn how he became who he became. What caused him to go from being a pro-Thomas Sowell guy, pro-PragerU, to a girl at Daily Wire who he was hanging out with. I think they even liked each other at one point, that became a Jew, converted, and then did certain things, and some retweets, some incidents with Ben, that the temperature elevated. One after another, and then in one video while he's at a university at this Leadership Institute, where the camera is kind of angled and this girl records him saying something about blacks, that goes viral. He gets blocked from all the conservative interviews, and at a young age, he goes from here to the entire whole different level. And I asked him a couple questions. Who are you more concerned about? Jews in America or Muslims? His answer is very interesting. I asked him, who's a bigger net positive, Jews or Muslims? You're going to be surprised by the answer. It's a technical answer.
And I disagree with Fuentes on this one. Completely disagree.
But we had a very good conversation in that exchange. And then a lot of the stuff of where he's at right now, Charlie Kirk, how did Charlie Kirk inspire you? What did he inspire you? And he revealed something I've not heard him talk about before. But all in all, I actually think, here's what's going to be interesting. I actually think his audience is going to like it. I think conservatives are going to like it because you're finally getting to know who this guy is. I actually think, it's going to sound weird, I think Jews in Israel is going to like it. That's kind of crazy. Yes, I actually believe that. But having said that, I hope you enjoy getting to know this individual that is both loved by groypers and hated by many. And if you're like me, you're in the middle 20% that just doesn't have a clue who the guy is, I hope you get to know him better by the time this podcast is done with Nick Fuentes.
Let's see.
Did you ever think you would make it?
Let's see.
He says, Nick has stopped saying the N-word. I said, no, he said it a lot a week ago. I said, no, he slowed down. He actually reacted. I said, well, we're going to have a conversation. I said, you're probably the first to know that we're having a conversation, and then obviously you're here. Appreciate you for coming out and making the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Nick, I don't know much about you except for the clips I've seen, respectfully.
Super
to me, the way I've made my money over the last, 25 years in insurance and finance was watching who has talent. And I would watch somebody, I would say, this guy's got what it takes, right? First time I had Charlie Kirk on at 23 years old, I said, there's something very special about this guy. At 23, I came to my insurance company. I said, this guy's going to be the president one day. Watch this guy closely. First time I watched Tucker, unbelievable talent. When you watch him, humor, sarcasm, intelligence, pushing back, subtle. He's making fun of you. You don't know it. The audience knows it. He knows the art. Candace, talent. Dave Smith, talent. We used to have a comedian working here called Marcelo Hernandez, who is now on SNL. I don't know if you know who he is or not. Incredible. He used to produce Adam's show. And I said, this guy's going to do something special. Now he's on SNL. Vinny Talent. I see you, the way you communicated. Very, very talented. Very capable, very talented. And I've expressed this before on the show before. But I want to know a little bit more about how you became who you are today. And then we'll cover a lot of different topics. So go to high school. 14 years old. Who is Nick Fuentes?
Well, at 14 years old, I was already very political. I've been political since really I was 12 years old.
Why is that?
Well, I just started to develop an interest in politics. There were a lot of political conversations happening due to the rise of Obama, actually, in 2008, 2012. And I wanted to know basically everything about it. You know, when you turn around that age, you start to ask questions about the world and how we all got here and, you know, about things that happened before. And so the first thing I ever watched, actually, was Thomas Sowell on Uncommon Knowledge. With I think
the best, one of the
Peter
best.
Robinson. Yeah, they're both excellent from the Hoover Institute. And that was actually the first thing I ever watched, and I just devoured it. I devoured everything.
At 12?
Yeah, 12, 13, 14.
Who introduced you to Thomas Sowell?
I just Googled it. A buddy of mine in school was telling me about the private sector. I said, what is the private sector? You know, what is the economy? Yeah. And so I just Googled it on YouTube, and that was the first thing that came up, and I watched the whole thing, and it was just, I was enamored by it. And I told my mom, I said, I want Free to Choose by Milton Friedman. That was the first political book I ever read. And one day I came home from school, and it was there on my bed, and I read it.
First book is Free to Choose.
Yes.
Capitalism, free market capitalism, and he was. It's really him and Thomas Sowell.
I started knowing about Thomas Sowell and Milton Friedman. When I was 26, 27, give or take.
Came before Thomas did, right?
He did, yes.
Right.
Yeah, well, he was from the Chicago school. So it was Friedman, Sowell, and all the others. And so I read all that stuff in middle school and high school. And at that time, I was really libertarian because that's just what was out there at that time. That was during the Ron Paul Revolution.
And the Fed.
Right, and the Fed. And there was so much online digital content. This is early 2010s that was being put out by young libertarians. So that's just what was out there and what was available. And so I worked through all of it. Basic Economics by Thomas Sowell, and read about all the Chicago school, even then the Austrian school, the really more libertarian economic stuff. And in high school, I was in Model UN, student council, speech team. I was very active in high school and, you know, one of those precocious autodidact type young guys. And
were you like this? Were you this vocal?
Oh, yeah.
Were you this intense?
Yes.
So did you get in trouble a lot? Did you get in a lot of fights? Did you get picked on? Did you have bullies?
I was very outspoken. I was very extroverted about politics. I was always getting in political debates in class and in Model UN, but I didn't really get in trouble as much.
Thank you so much for the support, guys.
What's really funny, this might interest you actually, and I've talked about this before, but when I was in Model UN, I was one of the best guys on the team. I would win first place every week. And because if you don't know Model United Nations, you simulate the United Nations General Assembly or the different committees. And it's like role play. It's like a role play game, but for the United Nations. And anyway, so I was one of the better guys on the team. And my junior year of high school, I became the head of the team. I became the secretary general of the team. But I had a major falling out with the guy that ran the team.
Damn.
He was ethnically Arab, I think, extremely pro-Palestine. And I, at that time, was very pro-Israel. I was on Prager University and Breitbart, and so I downloaded all the dogma from the conservative movement at that time. And so I remember we were sitting in the study hall one day, and they had all the flags of the world hanging up on the ceiling. And I said, why do we have the Iranian flag hanging up? I said, they're the #1 state sponsor of terrorism in the world. It shouldn't be up. And he told me, you got to read The Israel Lobby by John Mearsheimer and Stephen Walt. He said, you got to look at the other side. And we had this like vicious back and forth about it. And that is kind of the only major problem I had with faculty over politics, ironically. Now,
so he was faculty?
Yes.
Okay, so how many years older was he from you?
Oh, he must have been in his 40s.
It's very interesting. I didn't know none of this stuff.
This school, walk me through the demo of the school. Is it a public school? Is it a private school?
It was a pretty affluent public school, mostly white.
Got it.
Outside in the suburbs of Chicago.
Naperville,
it was Lyons Township in Western Springs, LaGrange.
Okay. So it's not like it's Chicago. It's a good area of Chicago, mostly white. And would you say politically center, left, don't care, Republican? What would you say the demo was?
I would say it's pretty center left. It's very Catholic.
Chicago. It's Chicago.
Some Catholic, some Protestant. But what's interesting about it is very liberal, but not leftist, not very progressive. So even though we were in the middle of a very progressive revolution under Obama, I mean, these guys were all liberal, but they weren't communists. It wasn't like New York or Portland.
So what year is this? When you were junior in high school? This would make it what?
2015.
2015. Okay, so this is... Has Trump yet announced anything?
So he announced August 2015. So it was actually right around that time.
Got it. Okay, so you're there, you're getting into these debates in junior year, and then Trump announces, and then what do you do?
So after Trump announced, this is right around the time, he announced in June 2015. And so I was very political, obviously super engaged with the election. And at that time, so this was going into my senior year of high school, I had a radio show on the high school radio station and a TV show on the high school TV station. I did both. And one of my first shows I've ever done in my whole life was talking about the election. And that was a very crowded primary. It was like 17 candidates. I don't know if you remember back then. It was Trump and this huge field. Yeah, it was everybody. And so I went through all the candidates. And initially, I was very anti-Trump because I was a libertarian. So I was in it for Rand Paul and then Ted Cruz. And it wasn't until April or March 2016, about 7 months in to my senior year, that I really went in hard for Trump. And Trump, I would say, is the one who red-pilled me, quote unquote. He's
out of all these guys, these are the guys we're looking at, right?
Right.
That was.
I remember this. Joe, I watched all the debates. I remember this. This was crazy. I never liked none of these. Trump from the beginning. I was a 2015 supporter. Even before he came down the escalator, I was already a supporter.
Jeb Bush started with $140 million.
Look at these weak.
He was supposed to.
Look at these weak. Look at Trump. Look at all these weak candidates, bro. Weak, man.
Win it. Carson had a little bit of momentum.
Yeah.
Cruz was one of the guys that people thought could do something.
Nah.
Right.
Nobody thought Trump up until I think Ann Coulter's like, who do you think today's going to win? And she made the comment that I think is going to be Trump on Bill Maher. Everybody starts laughing.
Right.
Okay, so you're in this moment. Trump red pills you first.
Yes. He red pills me on immigration, really. Because at that time, I am preoccupied with this notion of individualism. Very much like you. I mean, a lot of the stuff you say in your show, I agree with you 100%. I guess he reoriented my perspective about individualism, because what I started to understand is that, you remember, in 2015, it felt like the left was unstoppable. It felt like Obama and then Hillary Clinton were going to lead this progressive revolution, and it was just going to get more left every day forever, more pro-woman, more pro-gay, more diverse. And at that time, what felt so suffocating was this kind of political chokehold the country was in. The media's left-wing, Hollywood's left-wing, the press is left-wing. And what woke me up about Trump is one day I was watching the primaries, early primary elections, and Trump was winning all of them. He didn't win the Iowa caucus, but he won in New Hampshire, won in Nevada, and I remember the media was beside themselves, calling it every day for him. And I said, the one thing that Trump has right is he understands in order to take power, well, in order to do what you want to do, you got to take power first. In order to take power, you have to engage the media, because the media is really the enemy. It's a very early kind of understanding of how politics actually works.
And fake news, he hasn't even said fake news yet. So this is pre him saying fake news.
Exactly. But he would fight the moderators in the debates, even Fox News, because Roger Ailes had it out for him early on. And I said, he's going to fight the mainstream media. That's essential, because if you can't fight the media, you can't win. If you don't win, you can't do what you want. And then I thought about immigration and how it's affecting the voting patterns, because I looked at one meme in 2016 and it said, this is what the 2012 election would look like if only white men voted, if only men voted, I'm sure everybody's seen it. And what became clear is that if only non-white people are voting, the country, they vote 90% left. Blacks voted 97% for Obama.
Bro, I'm also from the Chi area, so I get a lot of what he's saying. He goes through his backstory. He's not wrong. Look, that election runoff was awesome. I enjoyed it, man. I enjoyed it. Little Mark, little energy, Jeff. Yeah, he was very good. And you go back, man, just to show you. And I don't want to get too much into it. Only Rosie Donahue. Yeah, Lo. I think that was from the 2016 election. Yeah, that's when Megyn Kelly asked, tell Donald Trump that supposedly called females or women pig, fat, and he said no, only Rosie O'Donnell. Yeah. The only thing is that I in this third term, let me just say that Trump understands politics. In the first term, I don't think he really understands politics, how the government works, and this is what Nick Fuentes gets it wrong. You see what I'm saying? He gets it wrong, and he's going a little bit into this rebel kind of, let's say, he's going to a rebellion kind of mindset. And for politics to understand it, you have to understand that this thing has process. Unless you want to take up arms and just change it from the ground up, that'll be the only option.
2008 in 2012. If immigration is making the country less white, and if non-white people only vote Democrat, Asians is like 75%, Hispanics at that time 70%, blacks 90%. I said it's clear where the country's going to go, what direction this is headed in. I said so, and the reason.
Yeah, and to be honest, Trump slowly is doing much better with legal migration and illegal migration. By the way, people don't see it. Like what he did for the $100,000 for the visa, the H-1 visas. That's only a tip of the iceberg. I think they roll it back, but that's just only testing the water. That's only testing the water. And what I notice about Nick Fuentes, sometimes what he doesn't do well when Trump is right in a couple of things, he doesn't retract his first statements. I don't remember some of the statements now, but he tend to do that.
Is happening is because these people aren't assimilating. So before we can even think about individualism, the Constitution, etc., we got to take out the media. And by take out, what I mean by that is you got to fight back. And two, you have to secure the border. Because if the Democrats bring in all these illegals and legal immigrants, they're going to flip Texas, and that's the way it's going to go. And that was kind of the first realization. That's what made me say I'm all in it for Trump, even though ideologically I wasn't really with him just yet.
Because you're a libertarian at the time.
Right.
Okay, I'm following. So now you're all in for Trump. He's the closest thing to a libertarian. I don't know. I don't think it was Joe Jorgensen, right? Who was a candidate at the time for
Gary
the libertarian?
Johnson.
Right. Yes, you're not going to go Gary Johnson, right?
He was a lefty. Gary Johnson. Gary Johnson was the lefty. I'm sorry, he was not a libertarian. He was a straight up lefty, anarchist.
He the one that didn't know the capital of a country, and I don't know what it was. Something
Aleppo.
That's what it was. And it's like, oh my God, this guy.
Yeah, India's about to lose half of his GDP that is gets from remittance from Indian citizen living in America. Yeah, thank God for that. Bro, man, I'm telling you, you guys have to see some of the videos about India, man. I don't know why in the hell we're exporting these people to the United States or even to the Western world.
Can't be, and then they moved on. That was an easy one for him. So you're in that moment. I'm going to go all Trump.
I remember that video, yes.
So I go all Trump, and I'm a big Trump guy. I get my MAGA hat, and I'm all excited about it, and I volunteer for the campaign and everything. And so he wins the primary in the spring of 2016. Convention happens, I think, July 2016. I enter college at Boston University in September 2016. And this is the first time I've lived outside Chicago. I've lived in the same place my whole life. And it's important to impress upon you and maybe everybody like where I grew up. It's like this pocket of America that never changed. It's a baseball town. Everybody's white. Everybody's obsessed with baseball. Everybody's Catholic. So growing up, I'm going to CCD, which is like catechism class for Catholics. Everybody loves baseball. There's an annual parade where you go and eat hot dogs and play baseball.
Oh, love that.
So this is a place that's...
nothing better than just go to a ball game, just eating some hot dog, some beer, some nachos, and just having a good time with the family for 3 hours and a half. Nothing better than that. Untouched
by, like I said, even though they're liberal, they're not even really progressive. It's untouched by the progressive politics, by a lot of the diversity, even the crime. It's safe, white picket fences. Take a trip down to Western Springs, Illinois. I mean, you'll see what I mean. It's like the land that time forgot. I go to college in Boston, totally different story. Boston's obviously super diverse. That's a lot of young people because it's all schools, it's all universities, and they're all from Asia, all foreign students, and they're all Chinese, they're all from these Asian countries.
Bro, that's crazy stuff.
And there's also, it's a little dangerous. There's a little criminal element, and everyone on the campuses, they're militant left wing. And that was kind of a culture shock. And I kind of realized in that moment, most of the country looks like this now, actually. New York, LA.